episode 220. We talked the Comedy Store's 50th anniversary. Frank Sinatra driving over scary bridges, getting lost in the woods, mayonnaise sandwiches, pickles, the Rat Pack, basketball, water polo, and much, much more. Mike Black is on the episode. And by the way, since talking about Frank Sinatra, I was talking to my son Austin, who just walked in the room. Austin, aka AusTheBassBoss. How you doing, Austin?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. I see you have a guitar. You're a little bit of a crooner, am I right?
Yeah, I guess you could say that.
How many instruments can you play?
A lot.
A lot. More than one?
Of course. I'd say about 10 to 40, I guess.
And what are your favorites to play? Your top three?
Piano, guitar, and bass.
That's right. And that's why you're AusTheBassBoss. That's right. That's right. That's right. And you and I do a little father and son bonding. Father and son bonding. Give us a little crooner. Give us a little Frank Sinatra on the guitar. I don't know.
Fly me to the moon, let me play among the stars. Let me see what spring is like on Jupiter and Mars.
That's me joining in.
In other words, hold my hand. In other words, thanks, baby, kiss me.
Blend into the Pocket Party Podcast theme song. You guys stay tuned. Enjoy this episode. It's episode 220. Do me a favor, huge favor. Leave some comments on YouTube. It helps the algorithm. If you're on YouTube, go check out Darren Carter, Darren Carter, and also my son, AusTheBassBoss, all one word, on YouTube. And hey, why not? Hit that PayPal, DarrenCarter.com. I'm also on the Cash App, $Darren Carter Comic. And Venmo, Darren Carter Comic on Venmo. Okay, take us out, Austin.
Everybody listen to Darren Carter. We all know that he's the party starter. So if you want to listen to podcasts for free, listen to our Pocket Party. Pocket Party.
Now start that party
in your ear holes.
Good job, buddy.
Thank you.
You got it.
You too.
Pocket Party.
And we're back, everybody. It's your host, Darren Carter, the party starter on the Pocket Party Podcast. We're calling Mr. Mike Black.
Hello.
Hello. Would you like to take a short survey today?
No.
Okay.
Why don't you go to hell?
Dude, I used to do short surveys, and that's pretty much how 95% of the phone calls went. People were like, not interested, no thank you, or they'd hang up, or sometimes they'd just be lonely and take it.
Oh, that's sad.
I know.
Was the survey ever about how lonely you are?
Yeah. On a scale of 1 to 10, how lonely are you?
Are you sitting at home watching The Wrestler right now?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Do you have nothing better to do than take phone calls from strangers and talk to them?
What are you going to watch after The Wrestler? I don't know, When Harry Met Sally or something.
Yeah. By the way, I've seen both of those movies. You know, a lot of times you name movies and I'm like, I never saw that, but those are two that I've seen. What does that say about me? I actually like those movies. The Wrestler was great. And I saw it a couple years
ago. They were going to do a sequel to both of them called The Wrestler Meets Harry Meets Sally.
I'll wrestle what she's wrestling.
Yeah. Mickey Rourke just beats them both up for an hour and a half.
I know. Yeah, those are good, dude. It's like, that's something I find that if someone said, hey, do you want to watch this thing? It's going to make you sad. I'm like, no, I don't want to watch it. But if you're already watching it and then you're like, oh, this is actually pretty good, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. They were both good movies. The Wrestler, I wanted to see before it came out, just off of, it said Mickey Rourke, The Wrestler. I was like, I bet that's going to be good, whatever that is. And then it came out and it just kind of blew me away how good it was. And him and, I forget her name, who's on Westworld, that played his daughter. And
oh, yeah.
I always want to say Mira Sorvino, and it's not Mira Sorvino. The lady who played Aunt May and Spider-Man.
Yeah, I don't know the actors or actresses' names, except for I did know Mickey Rourke, but yeah, she was really good.
But yeah, whoever she is, she's a great actress. And yeah, I remember seeing it, thinking it was great, and I called my parents and I was like, "You guys have to see this movie." And even though he was up for an Academy Award for it, and it was up for Best Picture and all this stuff, they could not find it anywhere in Colorado. It just never played. There was like one theater played it for like a day and a half, and then it was out of the theater, you know.
Colorado, they take their wrestling serious. They're like, no, we're not showing any of the dark side of wrestling.
Right. They're just not real into independent cinema either, for the most part, you know. Or they weren't back then. I think now that it's all, you know, legalized pot and everything, there's probably tons of places you could have seen it, you know.
Yeah.
But like at that time, if you, I remember when I was growing up, they had a theater in Denver that played every independent movie, and it was like you still felt like I should be wearing a raincoat coming into this place. You know?
Yeah. Did they sell popcorn at least?
Yeah, and a friend of mine worked there for a while, and their popcorn machine was legendarily awful. It was like, because it would spray hot butter on the employees.
Oh no! They're like, even our popcorn's independent.
Yeah, like they would have to like shield themselves with the plastic door whenever anyone wanted popcorn.
That's funny. It's funny when you look back at certain things that are like that would never fly today with like health and code regulations.
Oh no, never.
Dude, I was on the swim. I was telling somebody the other day. I talked to a professional water polo player. He played water polo professionally for 12 years, and I told him I played for about 2 weeks.
Yeah,
not professionally. I was in high school. I was on the JV team. But the reason that they discontinued the water polo program is the paint kept coming off into the pool and making the cloud, the water all milky white, like clouded it up with paint. And they were like,
God.
They're like, yeah, we better stop this. And so they had us.
There's all sorts of like mercury and lead and stuff like that in paint back then.
Oh yeah, especially in the 80s, you know, they didn't care about it. I mean, I'm sure that thing was painted in the, who knows, the 60s or who knows when. But so then they were like, okay, now we're just going to play basketball because it's the same concept, taking the ball, throwing it, and like your cardio. But I'm like, I did that for a couple of days, and I was like, nah, I didn't want to be on the basketball team. I want to be on the water polo team. So. You know, I remember telling that story on stage a couple of times, and I was like, and it was really difficult playing basketball wearing swim fins and Speedos.
Yeah, I like that you wanted to
bring that
play
back. Yeah.
the most white privilege possible sport that could be offered.
Right.
Not polo, not water polo.
Water polo. That's right. I want to play water polo. And
the
then
only sport that has like a break for cucumber sandwiches.
I know. Okay, guys, we're going to have some cucumber and mayonnaise sandwiches. Can we skip the cucumbers and just have the mayonnaise sandwich? I used to do that, by the way. I don't know if you...
God. Oh, wow, Darren.
Yeah, I know. Dude, have you ever had a mayonnaise sandwich?
No. That is... How do you... I don't know how you do it. How you manage to find the widest possible version of all things.
I used to.
You even found the widest sandwich you could possibly make.
I know. I used to, dude. I literally would take pickles and chop them up, and then I'd put pickles on white bread, and then with white mayonnaise. Dude, it was delicious.
Oh God. I'm surprised you weren't beaten up at lunch every day.
No, I did this at home.
Oh, thank God! I was like, if I saw some pasty redheaded kid eating a mayonnaise sandwich,
I know.
I wouldn't have even wanted to. I'd have been like, Darren, I'm sorry, but I have to bully you today.
I know. It's so funny
because
I think I've heard like either, I don't know if they were like Latino comedians or black comedians. I've heard them talk about white people loving, mayonnaise sandwiches. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so true though. It's true.
You know the Comedy Store legend Martin Mull, right?
Yes.
He did a show. It was so far ahead of its time that if they brought it out now, I bet it would be a massive, massive hit. He did an HBO special called The History of White People in America.
Yeah.
And they followed this one family, and each family member had their own personal jar of mayonnaise.
Oh, that's funny.
And like the dad was like, we need to have a family meeting because my mayonnaise jar is about an inch lower than it's supposed to be, and you guys each have your own, and I don't know why this is happening. We have the sign-out sheet and everything. Like, at one point, they cut to the two boys. They're both like 5 and 6 years old.
Yeah.
And they're playing with Transformers, and they're fighting, and they're going, "You're a Japanese. No, you're a Japanese."
Oh, gosh.
It's an amazing special, like how like self-aware it was back then. But
I love it when people can like celebrate and poke fun of themselves and, you know, all different, you know what I mean? As opposed to like, oh, I don't know. Like, I like it when it's done in a good, like good-hearted way. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. It was totally a good-natured thing. But like, what was funny is it was like, I remember going to school and it's different than it is now, obviously. But like back then, if you had cable, it was kind of your responsibility to reenact any comedy shows that you saw the night before.
Yeah.
For the kids that didn't have cable. And I think a lot of those kids became comedians because of it, you know. But like, I would reenact all the different ones that I saw. And one of my friends, it was like I had like 3 black friends and 3 white friends. And I asked the 3 black friends, I was like, did you guys see A History of White People in America? And we were like, that's for white people. And I was like, no, it's really funny. And I was like, I tried to pitch it to them before I reenacted it.
Yeah.
And they were like, nah, tell us about the other thing that was on, you know, like they actually got to like switch channels. You know, they're like, no.
They're like, nah. Like,
no, we'd rather hear about something else. But I was like, I bet they would think this is a riot if they actually.
I know.
You know.
I know. And then you do realize sometimes like how similar people are. Like I'll be watching something and then it'll, you know, and it'll be like directed more towards like, you know, black people. And I'm like, hey, wait a second, I do that. Or I'm like, I do the same thing, you know? Like maybe it's like a Southern upbringing. I don't know. Like there's something that's.
Yeah, and don't you get kind of indignant? You're like, hey, we all do that.
I know, we all do. What the? Exactly. Like, yeah.
Like there's a guy who does a brilliant thing on TikTok where he'll put a video of something. It'll just be like a bowl spinning or something.
Yeah.
But he'll write in the text for my male followers. And it'll just be a bowl spinning. And all his female followers will be like, hey, I like to watch bowls spin too. How dare you?
How dare you?
He's not saying anything controversial. He's just saying this is for his male viewers. But it gets everyone so pissed that they're like, well, I like watching a bowl spin too. No, you don't. Nobody likes sitting and watching a bowl spin.
I know.
But because they said you can't have it, you want it. You know?
Oh, yeah, I'll show you. That is funny, though, about
but
water.
He does it to the guys, too. He'll be like, oh, for my female viewers, I like watching caramel drip. How dare you? That's not fair.
See, that guy's smart. He's getting the comment section loaded up. And by the way, if you're listening to this on YouTube, leave a comment. Dang it. It helps that algorithm. Yeah.
If you're a male, leave a comment.
Oh, yeah, only the males. No, actually, I think I have more males. Only the females. No.
Only the females leave a comment.
Hey, ladies, I know this water polo podcast / mayonnaise sandwich topic just pulled you in. Yeah.
That would work for a lot of ladies out there. I think water polo and cucumber sandwiches means that dude's got money.
I know. Hey, that is kind of funny though, huh? Like it went from water polo to instantly like, nah, we're gonna play basketball. Like what?
Yeah.
So, like,
we're good.
That has nothing to do with what I. It has nothing to do with what I envisioned. I wanted water polo, not basketball. Yeah. That'd be funny if they made us play against the basketball team where all these white guys with sunscreen on our nose, snorkels, swim fins, Speedos.
Yeah, I remember George Carlin's great joke about water polo. He goes, I don't support it because it's extremely cruel to the horses.
That's funny. Dude, that's funny, man.
But yeah,
So yeah, I woke up today and I, before the show, I put on a little Frank Sinatra. I told you I've been on a little Frank Sinatra jag. It's one of those things like
they called him old mayonnaise,
old blue eyes,
the
chairman of the board.
That was his more popular nickname.
No, I found this really cool clip this weekend, and I typed in Frank Sinatra live, and there was a clip of him back. There's a whole concert of him backstage. A concert in Las Vegas. What was really cool is it opened up with the camera on him backstage, like he's in his dressing room, tightening his tie. He's pouring his drinks. He spilled a little, and he's cleaning it up. And as you're seeing this, the audio that you're hearing is what's on stage. And what was on stage was the opening act, and it was a comedian. Turns out it was Jackie Gale, and I just thought that was so cool because it really puts you backstage, like what it was like in the either the late '60s or the early '70s, and you're hearing the comic on stage, and he's like, "Now, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the chairman of the board, Mr. Frank Sinatra." And then the camera follows him, and you see the showroom in Las Vegas, and I don't know, it just kind of had that classy kind of throwback feel, and I was just thinking, like, man, there's so much about Frank Sinatra, like, that I could totally dive into now. I looked it up. There's so many books written about him, these Rat Pack movies, and did you ever get into a Frank Sinatra? Do you know much about him?
Just the basic sort of stuff that everyone knows. I was more into the Rat Pack as a group than him individually.
Yeah.
Like I would love to have been able to time travel and see like one of their live shows in Vegas, where they would film a movie during the day in LA and then fly out to Vegas and do a show that night. And I was like, I don't know of any better existence that you could possibly have than that. Like, to me as an entertainer,
oh yeah,
like that sounded so fun. Like, and that their show was just 5 or 6 really talented people, given the night, just hanging out and doing their thing, and that it worked. There wasn't like a real structure to it. They'd play part of a song and then start joking around, and then maybe play another song.
That's one of the things I noticed about this concert that I was watching. Like I said, I only watched a couple of songs. I saw his opening and just his rapport with the audience. It kind of reminded me of a stand-up comic, like down to earth, but stage presence, and going to tell stories. It wasn't like, like sometimes rock bands will. They'll have like the pre-show video and it builds you up, and then there's fire, and like Kiss or somebody, or they'll come swinging in on some crazy swing through the crowd, and it's like, that's exciting too. It's almost like a Cirque du Soleil. This was not like that at all. This was like just like a big band, and he comes out, "Hey everybody, how are you?" He just comes out, and it was like just really cool, like in a different kind of way.
And like Elvis kind of split the difference.
Mm-hmm.
Where he would do like some crowd patter, but he would also like have that big introduction too, but he could make it intimate when he wanted it to be, and but like when Sinatra was by himself, he was interesting, and he's such a talent that it didn't matter. But like when he had Sammy Davis Jr. or Dean Martin to play off of, or Joey Bishop, and they were able to like banter back and forth. That was a lot more fun because they each had their own like stage persona.
Mm-hmm.
That was, like Sinatra was kind of, drowsy and,
yeah.
clearly didn't want to work any more than he had to at any given moment. And Dean Martin was, played a much bigger drunk than he was, but he was so likable and so good at it.
Oh yeah, I'd listen to some of these. I was listening to some of these podcasts that would talk about that, and they'd all be, in the lounge or in the casino or wherever they'd be. Like maybe at Frank's room, they'd be drinking till, 5 a.m. or whatever. And they said that Frank was always, Dean was always the first one to check out. Like it'd be like 2 a.m. All right, boys, I'm going to go upstairs.
Like you would think he was this big party animal, but he wanted to be in bed by like,
he liked to get up early and hit the golf course, and You know, and
he was just he had such charisma. It was just off the charts that like everybody just wanted to be his friend, you know.
I was thinking about this with Frank. Like the other day, I put on the Frank Sinatra channel in my car, and on Sirius XM, I think it's channel 70 or 71.
Yeah.
And there was a song I'd never heard before, and I'm like, this is so good. And it was called the Coffee Song, and it's all about coffee in Brazil. It was so good though. You're hearing like the band, and he's like, "Coffee in Brazil," and it was so good, dude. As you're listening to this,
he made everything work.
Yeah. I'm picturing myself at some cool banquet, some wedding reception, like this cool like show, like the, you know what I mean, like an award ceremony, and just I don't know, it just really puts you in this cool place of like something nice is happening. You're dressed nice, and you know, nothing bad in the world could happen. Not even a slap from Will Smith. I mean, just
right.
Nothing.
Well, no, they were the opposite of that. They were the ones who got the Friars Club, you know, televised for the first time. You know, and they did the Dean Martin Friars Club roasts, and those are all on YouTube, by the way. And they
I gotta watch those.
Oh yeah, they're fantastic. Because each member of the Rat Pack got roasted, but also a ton of other people, like Orson Welles, all sorts of people. And Dean Martin would always host it, and he would get Don Rickles to really kind of, like, he was the one who would actually go up and do a lot of the emceeing a lot of the time. But Rickles had such an amazing laugh, and so did Dean Martin. Yeah. That whenever they cut to them, it just made everybody else laugh immediately, even if the joke didn't land.
Yeah,
they were both just so fun to watch. And Sinatra, you got to see like the really funny side of Sinatra or Sammy Davis Jr. Like Sammy Davis Jr., there was not an instrument that guy met that he couldn't play.
So talented. I mean, since he was like 4 or 5 years old.
Yeah, and could dance, and people don't, you know, they say like, oh, you know, so and so's a triple threat or they're a song and dance man. He really was. He was like on a whole other level than what most people. It's like you'd have to see it to believe it, honestly. And like when he was in his prime, you know, like as he got older, like anyone else, dancers, it's when they get older, they're just not quite as good. But
yeah,
if you can find any footage of him like in the 60s, man.
Even in like, I think 1970, 71, he had the Candyman song. I listened to it.
Yep.
And I never realized how much he enunciates. He's like, the Candyman can. The Candyman.
Yeah, you understood every lyric.
Yeah.
And, he was so gifted and so talented. You know, as crazy as this sounds, most people just don't believe it when they hear it. But the role of Beetlejuice was originally written for him.
Wow.
Like, it was going to be a whole other type of movie, really, with him playing the main character. But at the time, he just was doing other stuff, and so they went a different way with Michael Keaton. And but like a singing and dancing Beetlejuice would have been really interesting, you know?
Absolutely. Hey, did you earlier when you mentioned Orson Welles, did you ever see that Orson Welles and Robert Blake trade jabs with each other on Carson?
No.
Okay, I'm going to play this. I've queued it up. It's 30 seconds. Let me turn this up. And it's pretty cool. It's like Robert Blake makes a little jab at Orson about his weight, and then Orson hits him back. Here, check this out. Let's see.
Have you met Mr. Wells before?
Mr. Wells, you make Wimpy look skimpy.
Well, you see, I'm fat and you're ugly, but I can diet.
I think I'm going to lock up early.
That was it. That was
That's
it.
amazing.
Yeah, it was cool because I don't think it was. I mean, you never know. You really never know on these things, but it did not look like it was planned because even when Robert Blake said the line, he kind of put his hand on his shoulder, almost like joking, like, hey, buddy, you know what I mean, like.
Right.
And then the way they looked at each other, and then Orson Welles fired back with that, and then you just see like the. It was
Orson Welles was not someone to mess with. Like,
I know
in any capacity. That he was a renowned wit, and his best friend was John Houseman. It was like an old English wit.
Oh yeah.
So it's like you can't keep up with someone like that every day and not be pretty good at it,
Yeah, and that was kind of making the rounds, like after the Will Smith Chris Rock incident, because they were like, you know what I mean, like it was almost like that. Remember when people could take a joke and that kind of thing,
and would just fire back and not cry or
like the Don Rickles. I know I've been seeing tons of Don Rickles clips after that. The way he would go.
Oh yeah. Oh God, watch the celebrity roast. They had everybody would just get annihilated by Rickles, and they would love it because they knew it was going around. Everyone was getting made fun of, and I think that's the thing that no one's really even addressed about the Academy Awards was it wasn't like they were the only two people that were getting joked about that night.
Right.
They joked about everybody in the room. It was it wasn't just like everyone's. The way people tell it now is like, well, he singled out Jada Pinkett Smith to assassinate with comedy.
I know.
It's like, no, pretty much everybody got something. And really mentioning Jada Pinkett Smith is kind of a favor.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely. She doesn't have a whole lot going on that she's known for other than an open marriage,
Right. That's the latest news. Like the red table, an open marriage. She cheated and some younger guy and, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Will Smith is her husband. I mean, it's really what you...
And everyone acts like Chris Rock knew that she had alopecia.
Most people, I would say... we didn't know that until afterwards. Like, we don't know. Like, I remember that night Googling stuff, and all the stuff about that was from like 4 hours ago. It was like,
I'll go much further than that. More people now even know what the hell alopecia is than ever did that night.
Right.
And so it's like, comedy's terrible. Joking about people is horrible. Is it? Because it sure raised a lot of awareness about a certain condition that nobody was talking about, 2 weeks ago.
That's right. It's right.
And brought a lot of attention to her specific cause. So I don't know. Take a lump for the team.
I don't normally write jokes about stuff like that. Like people go, "This must be great for comedy," but I started working with Frasier. And dude, that guy's a topical guy. He's like, yeah. We'll go have lunch, and he'll be like, "Do you have anything?" So I'm like, dude, it's just like endless. In fact, it's almost too much. Where,
right?
Like, what's the one I put up today? We did a video. I said, I go, "Hey Frasier, how about the gas prices? They're so high." And he's like, "Oh yeah, I saw Will Smith slap a gas station attendant." like that, or
that's a good solid joke. Yeah.
That's a good one, right? I kind of stumbled over it, but another one he has is they're all short too for Frasier, right?
Yeah.
Well, now we know why Jazzy Jeff went solo. Remember that one, the Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince? Or no,
right?
Yeah. And then what else did we come with? He goes, "Hey, I go, hey Frasier, how's the career?" And he's like, "Oh, it's going good. I just booked G.I. Jane 2." He's like, "I just got to shave my head and lose some weight. Anyone know that can slap me into shape?" And I'm like, "Well, there's a will, there's a way, whatever." So just, and I find that we have to put those videos out like every other day. You don't want to do it too many in a row because then it just gets stupid. But it's like,
right.
But there's all those.
It's good. I don't know if he's got talked about this, but he's basically cornered the market on dad humor.
Exactly. Someone told him that, like, I think it was Mark Maron or somebody. They were like, "Dude, but you do the dad humor, but so like his delivery is just." Yeah.
But that should be his hook with the modern audience, is like the king of dad humor.
Yeah. Dad jokes. I know, dude, and that's, I don't know why, but like I'm just easy to. it's easy for me to write that for him, like we've been writing together. Yeah. And I remember when he used to, even back when he was hosting Potluck in 2019, 2018, I'd watch him and I'd be like, hey, what about this? What about that? And he would try it, and it was like, and then we started doing these writing sessions, and then now we're filming him, and it's like, it's so, I don't know, it works. It's like he's got the suit, the look, and then,
yeah.
But anyways, that was so yeah. One more thing I was gonna say about Frank is, imagine like, oh, by the way, I didn't even know he did this. Did you know he covered a Beatles song? He covered something. He covered something, and he covered Yesterday, and maybe more. I don't know. Maybe there's some big fans out there like Yesterday. I can't sing, but all my troubles seem so far away. Whatever.
Yeah, he covered a few of their songs, I think, and. But yeah, he has such a somber, sort of voice
somber, and people
song like Yesterday comes off.
Oh yeah, people in the comment section. Yeah, people in the comment section were like, "Imagine a 15 or 16-year-old George Harrison knowing one day Frank Sinatra would be covering your song." It's like,
or that you'd be outselling Frank Sinatra one day, like that Frank Sinatra was dreading that you were coming.
Yeah. Like, I know. Yeah. Imagine him just crushing. I was thinking about all these great songs, blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden, here comes My Way. And here comes New York, New York.
Yeah.
It's like, that's life. And then he ends with come on. It's like, but also I was thinking about this. Like,
One More for the Road. And,
Oh, yeah. He's got Strangers in the Night. He's got The Way You Look Tonight, Summer Wind. Fly Me to the Moon, You Make Me Feel So. I looked at one of his first big hits. I don't even know it. It was like 3 Coins in a Fountain.
Oh, yeah. It's a great... it's one of my dad's favorite songs.
Really? I'll have to listen to it sometime.
Also used beautifully in the movie Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, where John Candy and Steve Martin are on a bus with a bunch of other people.
Oh yeah.
And they're all doing a sing along, and Steve Martin's like is so like antisocial, and he tries to open up for the first time, and he's like, I've got a song. And John Candy, Neil Page has a song, everybody. Neil Page, give it to me. 3 coins in a fountain, each one seeking happiness. Each thrown by 3 hopeful something. Everyone just looks so angry that he brought up this song. And so then John Candy, Flintstones, meet the Flintstones. And everyone, they're the modern Stone Age family.
Oh, I think I remember that part. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It was really great. It just showed, it was such a lesson in how comedy works, too. That, like, if your reference is too obscure, people are just going to get mad at you. But if you come up with something that everyone recognizes, they're going to love it,
I watched, last night I watched Little House on the Prairie, and you're the only one I ever talk to this about.
I don't know why. I have such a loathing for that show now.
I know. And this is like, even my wife was like, "Yeah, don't do this. The episode wasn't that good." I'm like, "No, I got to tell Mike about it." It's called. It did. Listen, this one was good because it wasn't great. I will say this: it wasn't great. I didn't cry. I didn't really. But it's called Men Will Be Boys, and I'll just give you the gist of it.
You need like a Darren Little House meter.
Exactly.
Like you rating all the different Little House episodes.
I know. There was basically these 2 little boys. They started, they're, I don't know, they might have been around 11 or 12, maybe 12 or 13, and they started working. Right? They started working, doing like cleaning up the pasture, mending fences, getting money during their summer vacation. They loved it, and so they were like, so they come home, and then the parents are mad. They're like, "You're not cleaning your room," and he's like, "Well, I don't have time. I have to work." And then the father's like, "That's it." Charles Ingalls walks him out to the chicken coop. "You need to clean this chicken coop." And he's like, "But I'm busy working. I don't." And he's like, "Working? You're a boy still." And he's like, "Well," and he starts going, "Do I mend fence? That's a man's job. That's a man's job." He's like, "Well, I'm a man," And then Charles is kind of stumped, and he's like, "Just get in there and clean that chicken coop." And and I love this line because he said something like, he's like, well, that's not, he goes, why don't you just work for us? And he's like, well, that's an allowance, and that's something boys get. He goes, I want to get paid like a man. And he goes, you said a man chops wood, a man clears and plows. And he goes, clean the coop, Albert, just clean the coop. And I love this line. The kid goes, grown-ups, whenever you're wrong, they yell at you. Grown-ups. And so the two fathers, they decide, okay, you know what we're going to do? We're going to do what my dad did to me. He goes, we'll send them on a wilderness trek, and then they'll realize that they're not men, that they're scared little boys. And so they send them, they drop them off in the woods. They go, all right, boys, go pick up a letter. It's like a 5-day hike.
Wait, can I guess what happens from here?
So, should I tell you one more bit of information before you guess?
Sure.
Okay. They send them to town. Right? I mean, they drop them off right at the edge of the woods. All right, you guys are going to go. But then the dads are going to secretly trail them and make sure that they're okay. All right, cool. You can guess now what you think happens.
So I'm assuming this was the season finale of the show. And that the two dads watch their sons get eaten by a bear.
Yeah.
They're like, oh no, this backfired.
Well, I will tell you this. I will tell you this. It was not the season finale. And here, in fact, as you're watching it, my wife goes, well, I know they're going to be okay because there's an episode after this.
That episode could be their funeral.
Exactly. Little funeral on the prairie. No, but do you have any, should I give you, I'll tell you more of the story. You want to keep guessing?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, tell me more.
All right. So they start to head into the woods, and the one little boy is like, all right, now that we're out of our, parents' vision, he goes, let's just cheat, circle back, and take the road into town. Enough of this going over the, the hills and through the woods and over the river.
I want to prove that I'm a man.
Yeah.
And go back to the city.
And then his friend was like, no, we gave him our honor. We said we would do it. We're going to do it. And he's like, and the guy goes, well, nobody will know it but us. And he's like, yeah, but you'll know it, and I'll know it, and I'll tell everybody that you're a cheat. And he's like, yeah, okay, all right. So then they start, they're walking through the woods. The two dads are kind of like spying on him, like, there they are, okay. And then the tables start to turn where the little boys fish. They learn how to start. They start a fire. They're cooking the fish. And the dads are like, dang, that fish sure does smell good. Like, they didn't bring any supplies. They brought like a pocket full they brought jerky in their pocket. That was about it.
Right.
And but then the little boys are like, I burned the fish. So they throw the fish out. And then the dads are like, okay, good. They'll want to head out in the morning. So then
we'll go eat that burned fish.
Yeah, exactly. The morning, you hear a noise like, and it's a rabbit that they caught in their trap. And they're like, oh boy. So they go, the dads are looking through the woods. They're like, okay, there they are. They got the rabbit. And then the two boys are like, they're looking at the sad little rabbit. They're like, I can't do it. And then the guy goes, I can't do it either. All right. So then they let the rabbit go. And then the dads are like, aha, we knew it. And then the boys are like, let's just go home. They're like, all right. So then they start to circle back to the road. And then they spot like a tree or like a bush that has berries. Like, oh, look at all these berries. And then they start just eating all these berries. And the dads are like, dang. And then the boys are like, all right, let's go. And then the fathers are like, oh man, those berries are looking good. And they go, oh man, they didn't leave us any berries. Dang it. So now the dads are cold. They're hungry. The boys keep going. Then a storm hits. Oh my gosh. Finally, they get into town, right? It's raining, crazy storm. And then they're like, all right, they're going to go home now. Like, what are they going to do? They don't have any money. So then the little boys, they hatch a plan. They go to this hotel. It's basically like a bed and breakfast. And they lie to the lady. We're little orphans. We don't have any parents. And we're wet. So the mom or whatever, the caretaker gives them food, lets them stay the night. Meanwhile, the dads are peeking through the hotel window, and then the constable, the town sheriff or whatever, comes up with a rifle. What are you guys doing? You And he's like, oh, we're just, we're following these kids. Following kids, are you?
Yeah.
That's what he says.
Great. Yeah.
I know. And he goes, do you have any, he asks him, oh, we don't bring any money or nothing. Oh, get out of here. You got 1 minute to get out of here. I'll blow your head off or whatever. Oh, yikes. So then the next thing you know,
you guys smell like burned fish.
Exactly. So then they find a empty barn, and meanwhile there's some hobo in there, and he's like, "You boys just want to work for free? You think everything's free in this world?" He's like, "You could spend the night if you clean up this." So now the two fathers are learning. They got to clean the.
I like that the hobo's roasting the two fathers
Exactly.
about being lazy.
He's
lazy bums.
Yeah, and then meanwhile the kids, they get they have more food than they can imagine. They put extra food in their backpack. They're warm. They're dry. The next morning, they got the letter. The next morning, they're following the two boys, and there's a part where the rain had made the river rise, and they're like, they're trapped. Now they'll give up. I mean, they're just
now they'll give up.
Yeah. Well, so then the boys are like, well, let's just go downstream, and they go downstream, and then they found this one place where there was a tree that you have to you could jump on the log and cross the river. Mm-hmm. Of course, the boys do it. The dads attempt to do it. They fall off into the river. They lose their hats. They're soaking wet. I know. And then of course they get home and ta-da! Everyone learns a lesson and blah blah blah. But it was like a good adventure, and I was entertained by it. But it was like there's nothing really there that was like it was like sad or made you laugh that hard.
No, I like the line about grown-ups when they're wrong they yell at you.
It's true, right? And I was thinking about that, and I was also thinking about, like, I think even as an adult, I wouldn't want to do that adventure. Would you want to do that? Would you want to go on a 2-day hike in the woods?
No, I am not the outdoor type. I don't know if you figured that out from any of our conversations previously. Yeah. I barely want to do things indoors, let alone I don't like roughing it. I had a couple of Colorado was all about camping and, being out in nature. And California is very much that way too, But I just hate it. I hate it so much. I feel like we have cities now, and that should be the deal. We leave Mother Nature alone.
Yeah.
Like, we shouldn't be out there. Every time I hear, a wolf ate a guy, I go, well, he should have stayed in the city.
Yeah.
A guy gets attacked by a bear. It's like, yeah, that's where bears live. We have so much of the planet that is just ours now that really no one else.
I went hiking last week at Griffith Park. One of those days it was about 100 degrees. And I came within 2 feet of a rattlesnake.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it. I was at the top of Griffith Park. Like, there's a mountain. I was up there, and it was the heat of the day, and there was about a 2 to 3 feet of shade along this one, like, mountain ridge, along where the grass is, or the weeds, or whatever, the trees and the bush and the shrubs. And I'm walking on that side so I can get a little bit of shade. And I was like, normally I wouldn't walk that close to something. I'd stay more in the middle of the path. And out of nowhere, I heard what sounded like sprinkler going off. Like, it was like, yeah, I was literally like 2 to 3 feet from it, and I heard like that noise, like that. And I was like, whoa. I was like, and my brain went like, why is there a spring? And I looked down, and there was a snake, and it was going like so fast. And I stepped back, and I saw the thing, and it just was, that sprinkler noise was so loud. And I filmed it. I put it on my Insta story that day. I filmed it from about 25 feet away and zoomed in at that point. But I didn't realize, like, it's not like a rattle. Isn't not like a rattle. It's like a high intense sprinkler, man. Like, you'd see it like at a football field or something.
Yeah, that is probably like a younger, faster one. That
Yeah, I'm very happy nothing happened. It didn't strike me or anything. I must have just startled it or something. Like.
Yeah, they say they do it right before they strike.
Wow.
But it's also a warning. Like, just, you're in my area, get out,
Yeah, I looked it up later, and that's exactly right. And they said that they definitely want to get away from you. They're not really into, like, pursuing you. So I was like, hey, that's cool. Get out of here. I'm fine with that.
Yeah, if you kind of make it clear that you're not a threat, that you just want to back away. Other people are crazy. They'll keep walking towards it, and they'll try and fight it.
I know, or they'll grab a stick and
rattler for good luck.
Right. I know. In fact, I remember one time we were at Griffith Park. There was, I don't know what type of snake it was, but there was a hole in the ground, and this man had grabbed the back of the snake and was kind of pulling the snake, stretching the snake out of the hole, I think he was trying to impress a girl, like this one girl that was watching. And it looks so gross to me. I was just like he literally had probably about three or 4 feet of snake that he was pulling out of this hole. And he was all laughing, like he was this Latino guy with a gold tooth.
That makes it a lot creepier.
I know, dude. He was like this Latino guy with a gold tooth, and he was like, he was like pulling it. And the girl was like, she was like kind of like, oh, he's crazy. Oh my God, he's so crazy. And I was just, we were all the other like,
he is crazy if he's laughing while he's
dude. I know. I was like, this guy's a real man. I was like, this guy's probably from Mexico, and he's like,
he's a real man. He's also a real creep. That's weird.
I know the rest of us, like hikers or whatever, we were tourists. We instantly were like, what the hell is this guy? And then it made me think, like, all these holes I see in the ground out there. I'm like, dude, snakes might live in those things. Like, I just.
You think you're like, oh, I'll stick my head right there, and a groundhog will come out, and I'll catch it.
Yeah, some cute little gopher is going to pop out, or
yeah. And imagine how terrifying that is for gophers when they're like, they're in their house, and a monster that perfectly fits their house comes in.
I know. That's hilarious. It perfectly fits. It's like,
it's like, oh no.
Hey, what's the big idea?
We did not think this through.
Yeah.
If only we had thumbs, we could have put doors on the front of this place.
Yeah. Or why don't we make what's that thing? A round peg into a square, or a square peg into a round hole, or something like.
We could have at least shaped it differently. This was so stupid.
Yeah, maybe we could have like triangle holes.
Yeah.
We need to
put
regroup
a few sharp
this.
turns in here at least.
I know. I was telling you on the phone the other day, man, I had to, somehow my GPS, it took me, I always go to Long Beach, I go to the Laugh Factory, and I always go the same way. I take the 710. It's a nice little friendly, it's like anything else with directions. Once you learn, you could almost go on autopilot. Like, oh, I go all the way. I know exactly there's a big sign that says, welcome to Long Beach. It's all lit up. It's beautiful. You go left, you go right, and then I make another left, and there's like the Ferris wheel and Dave's famous rib. It's very touristy. It's by the waterfront, the Laugh Factory. However, something happened. I came from the 405, and I had to go over the Vincent Thomas Bridge coming from, I think, San Pedro. Dude, it's a total different way than, and what creeped me out about this bridge is it's so high. In fact, sadly, some people commit suicide off that bridge. Like, they've jumped off of it. It's like they've used it in a million movies. They've blown it up like in CGI style. It's like it's a what do you call it?
World famous bridge.
Yeah, world famous with the span. What do you call it with the cables?
Oh, a suspension bridge.
Yes, and I'm telling you, it made me nervous, man. I started getting that little pit in my stomach where I'm like, I don't like being on this bridge because it goes forever.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've been on it or a bridge like that, but it's not a.
I've been on things like that, but I don't know if it's that specific one. But there, like, I'm trying to think of where I went. That I think it might have been in San Diego. They have a bridge like that that you can drive to a little island.
Oh yeah, I know what that is. That's you're talking about not Corona Island, but
Catalina.
Catalina Island. No, it's where Marilyn Monroe in that famous hotel.
Sure.
What's it called? Yeah, it's that one.
But yeah, and it really gives you anxiety because you're like, you really start, all of a sudden you're interested in who built it and how much they were paid to build it and what kind of materials they used.
Yeah. The Coronado Island. That's what I'm thinking of. The Coronado Island.
Coronado Island. That's the one. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that one is 11,000 feet long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How high? It's ridiculously high up.
Oh yeah, it's something everyone puts on postcards. Clearance below 200 feet.
Ugh. Yeah, it's.
Oh yeah. See, you're right, because the one that I was telling you about, it's 185 feet. So the bridge you're talking about is even higher.
Yeah. So they're both pretty close.
I'm sorry. Actually, this one's double. It's 365 feet high. Yeah.
You know, and you're not just falling, you're falling in your car.
Oh, dude, it's
You
like,
know? So, like,
yeah.
you would have time, like, to land and hit something hard. And as you're sinking, you're, like, trying to open the doors, and that doesn't work underwater. Everyone thinks, oh, I would just open the doors, and they would open up easily. No, there's so much water pressure around the sides that your best bet is breaking the windows. And everyone's like, well, I would just easily break the windows. Yeah, they're made of glass, razor sharp glass. Like, there's so many. It is such a death trap. Like, all these people act confused when that happens to someone. Why didn't they just do this, or why didn't they just do that? As soon as you make that hole, all the oxygen leaves.
Yeah, and I remember what was scary about this bridge is, like, it's a 2-part bridge where you think the thing's over with, and you're like, oh, finally land again. Oh no, I'm back on the bridge again.
Yeah.
It's like, and I remember
you have a little break point, and then you go to the next one. Yeah.
Yeah, when I did it, I don't know, for some reason it made it extra creepy because it was nighttime and it was raining and it was like windy and it just, you felt like the car's moving a little bit, and you're just like, oh gosh, man, like, this is not. No. And I wasn't that afraid, but it definitely wasn't something that I was comfortable with. But I saw something on, I think, on Inside Edition where they hooked some lady up that was like her phobia, and they put all these GoPros in her car, and they were like, and they had like a safety car in front of her and one behind her. And they go, look, we're going to be filming you. You'll be safe if anything, you know. And they just wanted to get her reaction and you know, kind of encourage her to go through it. And I was like, wow, that's really, you know.
Did they have to bleep a lot of it?
Probably, I think so. They're like, she's like, oh my gosh, you know, like,
if it's just one long, you know.
Yeah, I remember crossing the Bay Bridge up in San Francisco a lot, like, because, you know, to get into the city of San Francisco, if you come from the East Bay, you have to go over the bridge, and you know, you kind of get used to it after a while. And also, there's like I think eastbound traffic is on the bridge above you, and westbound goes. So it's like a, you know, like that. So
yeah, you know what's funny is, like, I know I've been on higher bridges and didn't care because there was traffic.
Yeah. Yep.
You know, like, I don't think about it at all when I'm like, will you just go? Just go.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah, when you're by yourself and you're the only one going over it, you're like, like, and also the whole area is like kind of, it's just different than the rest of things you see every day. Like, there's all these cruise ships and containers and containments, and that you're seeing signs that say Terminal Island. You know, all this, all this stuff down there. It looks like something where you'd film like a movie with like the bad guys down by the docks, and you know, the whole thing is just like, you know, especially during a storm at night.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh man, we didn't even talk about the Comedy Store.
Oh yeah, God, the Comedy Store 50th that we both went to.
Dude, how great was that? 50 years,
that was
1972.
So much fun. You know, with comics, you kind of expect a certain amount. With that large of a group, you expect a certain amount of drama to happen. You know, like people settling scores and stuff like that. Any sort of entertainment industry thing.
Yeah.
You expect there to be some sort of, you know, cattiness and fighting and stuff like that. But I personally didn't notice any of that. It just felt like,
oh, dude, we were all talking.
Really good time.
You know what? We were all talking crap about you, and
okay. So each time I would enter the room, it would stop.
He's like, "This is a pleasant experience." Here he comes.
I'm having a great time. Look at his stupid mustache. Oh, here he comes. Here he comes.
No, you're right. Though, it was 100% like that. It was. It kind of reminded me of in a way, a little bit of a high school reunion, or you know, like some sort of reunion in a way, but in a good way though. And you're right. There wasn't any drama, nothing crazy, and
there was great food. I think that always helps. Great food and free booze.
Oh, the food was like out of this world. I remember, like, there was a certain shirt I wanted to wear, and I didn't want it to be too snug. So I was like, you know, let me kind of eat a little bit light that day, and then, you know, and then I got there, and I'm like, and they were like, oh, and I also ate right before I went there, and and then they had like the caterers walking around with different, you know, hors d'oeuvres, and I was like, oh no, thank you, or oh, I'll just try a little bit. And then as the night went on, I'm like, oh my gosh, this food is so good. I'm just going all in. Who cares? My shirt fits. Who cares? It's like, you know what I mean? Like they had Thai food in the main room and Mexican food, and they had hamburgers and
hamburgers. They had a whole Mexican bar. We got these great gift bags at the end of the night with free T-shirts and stuff.
Oh, it was great. Like the NFTs you were telling me about with the
I think So I think they gave us each an NFT
of the tickets. The 50-year anniversary Comedy Store ticket, gold and silver, and
they really made it about the comics. Like they put a bunch of new photos up on the walls, and a lot of people who hadn't had photos up before, and they added a few names to the building and stuff.
It was so nice. It
was just a really, really great way of celebrating.
Did you see Willie? Did you see Willie, Tyler, and Lester?
Yeah, I saw them very briefly.
So I got there really early. Like the thing opened the event opened at 7, and they wouldn't let you in until 7. And I knew you said you were going to be there at 6 next door. So I thought, oh, you know what? I'll get early, park, and so I got there at 6:30. And dude, it was hilarious. The people in line from 6:30 to 7, I would say were mostly over 50.
Right.
And Willie, Tyler, and Lester were there, but he did not bring out Lester yet. He's a ventriloquist, if you guys aren't familiar. And I remember being a kid looking at the Sears Wish book, at Christmas time, the Sears catalog, and they'd have the Willie, Tyler, and Lester ventriloquist dummy doll, and it was like the coolest thing to finally meet him. When I became a regular at the Comedy Store.
Yeah, I guess I'd seen him around enough times to where I was like, oh, there's Willie, Tyler, and Lester, but But I think the first time I saw him, I felt the same way. I was like, wow, he had a puppet in stores.
Yeah, I think Bobby Lee posted a picture, and he's like with him, and he's like, this is the only photo I'm excited about. Yeah, it was. I stayed at the condo with him once down in La Jolla. We did the Comedy Store in La Jolla back when they put everyone in the condo, not the hotels.
Willie Tyler or Bobby Lee?
No, Willie, Tyler, and Lester. And I remember that it was in the 90s, and I remember him like waking up early on a Saturday, and he's like, well, I got to go buy some sprinkler heads. I'll see you later at the show. Like he had to go buy some stuff for his home. And I was thinking, like, that's cool, Like this guy's a homeowner.
That really is cool.
Yeah.
Buying sprinkler heads.
I know. So people are like, oh, so did you and Lester hook up a threesome? No, the little puppet.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, your definition of cool is far different from mine, but yeah.
Yeah.
I got to watch him buy sprinkler heads.
Yeah. The little that was cool. I also stayed at the condo one time with Ralphie May.
Oh yeah.
Ralphie May, I remember. Ralphie May. Anyways, that was cool. The 50-year anniversary, man. It was really neat to see people I hadn't seen in a while, and
it was cool. They did that whole in memoriam thing. Speaking of Ralphie, they did a whole video on comics that we've lost and stuff.
The Buddy Rich band was playing.
Yeah, and they were great. I felt kind of bad for him because I don't know the name of the drummer, but he was kind of like making comments about how people were walking out while they were playing and stuff like that. And he was like, could you guys maybe have your friends come back in the room because we're about to sing a song? And nobody was really like into that. And I didn't want to say it, but it's like someone should have said, it's like, don't take it personally. It's just, it's not your night.
Yeah. Comedians.
To be around each other and catch up and stuff like that.
Yeah, some comedians hadn't seen each other in 2 years. Some hadn't seen each other probably in 15, 20 years. Like there was comics that flew from, the East Coast. I saw online. They were like, I hadn't seen people in 25 years or whatever, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then some comics I saw afterwards, they said that they go, I enjoyed my time, and it's probably the last time I'll be at the Comedy Store. They're like, I was there, almost every night for 20 years, and I think that time has passed, and it was good to see everybody, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like
I think it's like any kind of work. You put a large part of your life into it, and then eventually you get older and It's not that it becomes less important. It's just you have more responsibilities and other stuff to do, you know.
Yeah, or maybe, and also maybe you feel like maybe they don't like some of those emotions that stirred up, you know, like, hey, I was here every night from 78 to 1998, and I'm back now, and I don't really know too many people, and what's the point, you know, like, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's a kind of a bummer,
you know. But then people, even on that, they joked around. They're like, if you know, if one guy wrote, if my memorial's held there, will you come? The guy goes, okay, I will. You know,
fine.
Yeah, he probably just felt that way, like that night or the next day, like, you know.
Who wrote this?
Jackson Purdue.
Oh, okay.
There's a Facebook group. I think it's called like Mitchie Shore's Comedy Store Facebook or book or something like that. So it's some of the comics that are. It's kind of interesting because sometimes I can go in there and, you know, like the other day I wrote, like, does anyone know who the comic is that opened for Frank Sinatra? Here's the clip of it, and you know, those are I think one of them was the guy. Check out Jackie Gale. I believe that's Jackie Gale.
Yeah.
You know, and so I looked up I'm like, well, who's Jackie Gale? Then I looked up Jackie Gale, and were you ever at the Comedy Store when gosh, I forget his name right now, the flamboyant guy was there in the end of the 90s, the early 2000s. He had the Belly Room show. Skippy Lowe. Did you ever do those shows? So his name is Skip E. Lowe. And he, a senior citizen, flamboyantly gay guy, and he would host a show there, and he'd call all the guys Mary. You're next, Mary. He would do that. And anyways, that guy, he had like his own cable access show, and he would interview people and stuff. So I was looking up videos. Apparently, he interviewed Chuck McCann and some of these other like famous like Hollywood writers for the Tonight Show and actors and I was watching some Jackie Gale and some of those guys. I remember one time seeing Skippy Lowe at the bottom of the Belly Room in the hallway, looking into the main room of the Comedy Store, and on stage was Martin Lawrence. This is probably like 97, 98, 99, somewhere in there. And Martin Lawrence was on stage using a very salty language. And Skip E. Lowe had no idea who he was, and he turned to me and he goes, "He'll never make it in showbiz with that mouth."
It is funny. I remember like not the night of, but the night after. No, this last Saturday. I was at the store, and a guy was talking to me, and he goes, do you know Guy Torrey? And I was like, yeah, he was in Poetic Justice, and he's regular here, and he also did Def Comedy Jam. He hosted for a while there, after the first host left. And he was like, well, he did a show here in the Belly Room. That's what these other people know, the other comics that were around would know. And I was like, yeah, I mentioned he was a regular here. And he was like, well, that show, I'll have you know, got moved to the main room, and he ran it there for 10 years. And I was like, oh, okay. I was mentioning like relevant TV and movie credits that I thought they would know. And he was like, you don't know your Comedy Store history. I was like, there's 50,000 shows that have come through this place that different people have done. Yeah. These guys aren't time travelers. They were never going to see that stuff. I mentioned stuff he did. But what it reminded me of was that, and I'm glad there wasn't much of this on the 50th. This is what I was really expecting.
Yeah.
It's that, do you have any idea who you're talking to? Attitude.
Yeah.
That a lot of comics that really just never made it.
Yep.
Yeah. And it's like, if you have to ask that question, then they don't have any idea who they're talking to. Right. And maybe you have quite the impact you thought you had.
Ooh, that's true.
It's like if that even has to cross your mind, these people don't know who they're talking to, then don't double down on it. Don't.
Oh yeah, there was none of that. Huh? Like sometimes you'll go to like on a regular night when it's not a party like that, and you'll be, at the somewhere like improv bar or someplace. You're right. Some people can get that attitude, that little chip on their shoulder, and I don't like that.
Yeah,
it's like
I hate it, and it's like, not that you should really compare yourself to other people too much, but have an idea of where you stand in the massive scope of entertainment that we're in, and don't get mad at people for not knowing who you are.
Oh yeah, I was definitely in the mode at that party to keep my mouth shut and listen more, because I knew there was comedy history all around me, and I wanted to hear every word of it. I heard Tom Dreesen telling a story about Sammy Davis Jr. Losing his temper because he thought someone called him buckwheat, but it turns out the guy was saying something about meat, and it rhymes with buckwheat, and then and I want to hear that. I want to get him on the podcast and have him tell that story. But how Sammy, once they, told him what was said, Sammy apologized to the guy, signed autographs, gave him a bottle of wine, like was so, you know what I mean? That kind of thing. Like I was like, I want to hear these kind of stories. This is what I came here for. Like,
exactly.
Not to tell people, do you guys realize I've uploaded my 220th episode of the Pocket Party podcast?
Yeah. Why aren't they rolling out the red carpet for me?
Dang it, you guys. Come on. I've been headlining the comedy. It's like, no, I want to hear, that.
Yeah, it's like, you're like, oh, I've played here for 20 years. You're talking to someone who like opened for Sinatra at the Copa.
Yeah.
Like, right. Something like that, like
there was a guy who had There was a guy who had like these Elvis Presley style glasses when I was in the main room, watching when they played that song Birdland by the Buddy Rich Band.
Much older gentleman.
Yeah,
right?
He was probably in his 80s, and he had.
Yeah.
Yep, you saw him, and then his wife.
That's an old school Friars Club guy. Yeah.
And I found out who he was, and it turns out he used to live across from the Comedy Store when it was Ciro's, and he has he's a big Cadillac dealership, and he's been dealing Cadillacs, selling Cadillac. He sold Mitzi the limousine and her Cadillac, and so that's how he knew, and also he was telling us that when he lived at the apartment complex back when it was like the beginning of like Comedy Store and that whole era, like he said, oh yeah, all the comics would come to town, they'd stay at that apartment, and he goes, and around the swimming pool, he goes, I think he goes to get Jackie Gale, he named all these, some of the comics I didn't know who they were, and some I did.
Yeah.
And then the lady who was probably like his trophy wife, I would imagine, or she was a very lovely lady. She was a little bit younger. She was younger than him, and they were just the nicest couple. He's like this Italian guy, and she's like, oh yeah, she's like, Pat Cooper did some time at our wedding, and she was naming all these classic comics. I was like, this is so cool. And then I grabbed Wayne Federman. I don't know if you know Wayne Federman.
Sure.
He wrote a book about the history of comedy, and also I think he teaches like a course at UCLA, and so he's one of those guys that knows the names, and so I go, Wayne, you got to meet this guy. And so those guys were chopping it up for like 15 minutes, and they were like, the guy was like, Wayne was like, where are you from? And he's like, I'm from Maryland, and my dream was to always come to Hollywood and go to the Ciro's. And he's like, I went from Maryland to Miami, and then Wayne was like, did you ever go to the fountain? Is it called the Fountain Blue or the Blue Fountain Blue, the fountain?
Yeah, Fountain Blue.
Something like that. And he's like, oh, I went there, and I was there the night Muggsy Malone or whatever. And he was like telling all these stories. And I was like, this is so cool. It's like I'm listening to a podcast, but it's like right here, right now in real time,
Yeah. You should have said that to them.
I know, right? Yeah. It was like an interactive podcast. It's called, Darren, it's called A Conversation. It's called
it's real life, Darren. You're in real life.
This is like a podcast, bro. No, it's like yeah. Anyways, well, Mike, man, dude, thanks for coming on, and let's get you back on. And anything in closing you want to say? Is there anything I'm leaving out?
I think I've told this before, but we were talking about Sinatra, where it was kind of funny when I first worked with John Panette in Arizona. The first thing he did when he met me is he had like a plate of avocado in front of him, and he said, I eat this because it's supposed to be good fat, kind of like me. you know, and I laughed, and he gave me $100.
Wow.
And he goes, "This is for coming out and doing the shows with me. Thank you." And I was like, wow. That weekend, on his last show, he threw a pizza party for the staff, tipped all of them $20, gave them a signed copy of his DVD, like anyone that wanted one. And I asked him, I was like, "You really take care of everybody, don't you?" And he was like, "Yeah, I learned that from Mr. S." And I was like, "Mr. S, who is that?" And we worked together a few more times, and he kept bringing up Mr. S. And finally I was like, "John, I'm embarrassed to ask you this, but who's Mr. S?" And he goes, "Oh, Mr. Sinatra." And I was like, "What?" And he was like, "Yeah, I used to open for Mr. Sinatra before he passed away." And I was like, "Oh my God." And
wow.
he had gotten that job by getting fired by Kenny Rogers.
Wow.
He was working, this is an amazing thing. He was working at Bally's, you know, across from Caesars.
Yeah.
And Kenny Rogers had a show there, and he would have him open for him, but Kenny Rogers, being Kenny Rogers, had a very clean show. Well, one night John accidentally dropped an F-bomb. And Kenny Rogers brings him in and he goes, "Buddy, I'm sorry. It's not up to me, but they're making me let you go. You know, you dropped an F-bomb tonight." And John's response was, "Are you shitting me?" And he goes, "I'm real sorry, but I know you're gonna land on your feet. Don't even worry about it." He said he didn't get back up to his room before Kenny Rogers had made a few calls on his behalf.
Wow.
He got back to his room. There was a message on the machine, and it was like, "This is Vic Pittacata over at Caesar's Palace. I am the booking agent that handles Mr. Sinatra's shows. We understand that you're free now and would be able to open for us this week. Would that be possible? Would you be interested in doing that?" And he got to work with him for right up until the week that he died.
Wow.
And he said that on the last week, Frank kind of knew it was his last week, and he wanted to perform right up until he died. And so he told him on the last week, he was like, "I want Rickles to be my guy on the last week. So tonight will be your last night. You'll do 10 up front, and then Rickles will do his time. But that'll be like your farewell thing." And he was like, "You were fantastic, but it's got to be Rickles for my last week." To have the presence of mind to know that, But so he was like, it was my last set for him. And it's at Caesars, and it's this full sold out show. He was like, "I'm not trying to brag, but I murdered." He was like, I got a standing ovation. Yeah.
Wow.
Doing a 10-minute set. He got a standing ovation. He goes, "And now, ladies and gentlemen, Don Rickles." Don Rickles comes up, hugs him, whispers, but does it where the microphone can pick it up, and he goes, "You'll get him next time, kid."
Oh, I love that. I love those stories, and that's not that I'm not there now, but I would maybe I am. I don't know, but I do want to. Wouldn't you? I want to be so good that kind of stuff happens. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
And maybe I already am. Maybe we already are. But who knows? I met George Gray once. I don't know if you know George Gray, voice of Price is Right, and with the.
Oh sure, yeah.
Is it The Price is Right with Drew Carey?
Yeah, he used to run with the Hells Angels.
Did he? George Gray? He's a younger guy. No, I don't know. No, it's like, what the heck? Yeah. But George Gray, one time I saw him, and maybe this is just a nice thing to say, but he's a really cool guy. And I saw him one night, and I go, "Man, you're so, because he's always so friendly." And I go, and somehow, I don't know what he said to me. I don't know how this came out, but it was a nice compliment. He goes, "Darren," he goes, "you just the right person that can help your career just hasn't found you yet. That's all. You're already there, baby." But he didn't say baby, but he made it sound like Like
but it felt like he said baby.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe because we're doing the whole Frank Sinatra talk. But that's what he said. He said the right person to help. And I think sometimes that's what it is, right? Like if the right person sees Mike Black, boom, that's it, man. They're opening doors for you.
You just keep watching that Little House on the Prairie.
Exactly.
Things are going to start going your way.
I know. Hey, babe. Hey, man. You just haven't. The right person just hasn't found you, but you're already there. But I mean, imagine like just how great that would be, like to go out, do that killer 10 minutes, get the crowd like Don Rickles, boom, and then.
Yeah. Anytime someone that you admire gives you a compliment, like the other night, I'm a big fan of Tom Rhodes,
Oh, me too.
Great comic. And I did my set and sat back down and didn't realize it, but he was sitting 2 chairs over in the, where the regulars sit in the OR.
Yep.
And he kind of chucked me on the shoulder and it was like, I never got to see you before. That was really great. And I was like, over the moon. That made the week for me.
Oh, that's so cool.
So the stuff like that is one of the best things that you get out of this that no one really talks about is, like ball players, they don't really get that because everyone kind of ages out with athletes and stuff.
Yeah.
We don't have an old timers day. You can do this the rest of your life. And right from the beginning, you can work with people that you saw on TV, here and there randomly. You never know.
One of the first year that I became a paid regular at the Comedy Store, I remember sitting in the back, like you said, where the comics would sit. And sometimes I'd be on those same shows with Richard Pryor. Like they'd give me the, let's say the show started at 9, I'd be up like at, from 9 to 9:15 or from 9:15 to 9:30. And then there'd be, one comic or 1 or 2 comics and then Richard Pryor. And so I remember doing my set, sitting back in those chairs, and Mitzi would always sit that far, the one closest to the stairs, the far one. And so Mitzi would sit there. And so I'd always put like a couple chairs between me and Mitzi because, I didn't want to, you know what I mean?
You don't want to bother Mitzi while she's working.
Right. And so one night I was there, there was 3 empty chairs to the right. There was Mitzi, Richard Pryor's wife, an empty chair, and then me. And so Richard Pryor's wife leans over to me and she goes, "Excuse me." And I was thinking, oh, God. And so I immediately started to stand up. She goes, no, sit down. Because I thought, she wants me to leave. Like, this is for the quote, unquote, important people. And she goes, I just want to say you are really, really funny. And I was like, oh, thank you. And that meant the world to me because I'm thinking this is Richard Pryor's wife. I mean, maybe it was his 8th wife, but whatever. It was like somebody who knew funny and had, she didn't have to say crap to me, and she did. And I thought that was so cool.
Yeah, clearly if she married him, she has a decent sense of humor.
Yep.
Yeah,
for sure.
That's amazing. And like, when you were talking about the party and how like, you're kind of in awe of different people and stuff. It's like now, at the 60th, people are going to be like that with you. They'll be like, that guy was around when Richard Pryor was on stage.
Oh,
and
man.
Stuff, and like when I talk to comics now, they're like, wait, you were passed by Mitzi? They're like, that was like a long time ago now,
I know.
So like we're becoming the people that have those sort of stories,
I know. I wonder who opens up for Michael Bublé. I wonder if he has a comic. If he has any comics that open for him. I'm just curious.
I think you should send him your resume.
I know. Like, hey, listen, man, I'm really into Frank Sinatra. He's no longer around, but you're sort of like Frank Sinatra. I'm sort of like the new Tom Dreesen. Not really, though. But
you're exactly like the new Tom Dreesen.
I know. And then he looks up like the wrong tape of me or from like, you know what I mean? Where I'm like, beep, bop. Yeah. I'm like, yeah, bitch, I'm Snoop Dogg. Bow, wow, mother.
He just writes back, who's Tom Dreesen?
Who's Tom Dreesen? I'm like, no, don't look at any of my stuff from like before 2005. That was when I,
that doesn't send up a red flag.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't look up don't Google anything about me before 2005.
Yeah, I just, ever since my son turned around 4, I was like, I better write clean material so I can open up for Michael Bublé. That's hilarious. But
I would start tagging him in your tweets now.
Exactly.
I've been writing clean material for months. So
I know. And then some comics. What about like Dean Del Rey and Jim Brewer and these other guys that got to open for Metallica? But I don't think those are good gigs, though. You know,
it's one of those things that it sounds good. I remember Bob Oshak, the great, hilarious comedy writer, Bob Oshak.
Yeah.
Telling a story about how he opened for Metallica, but like when they had their first big boom, their first big success, and the way he was introduced was they were like, and it's like you would think everyone in show business knows show business, but it's just not the case. This was the intro they gave. They were like, "Ladies and gentlemen," everyone, "Woo! Are you ready for Metallica?" And everyone, "Yeah!" But first, a comedian.
Yeah, comedian.
Bob Oshak, and everyone, boo. You know? And he just had to do his time through that, you know.
Oh my gosh. I know. I mean, seeing Jim Brewer is perfect because he imitates them. He knows the metal. He knows the music. And, you know, gosh. Anyways,
yeah, but it's like no one ever wants to see at a rock concert. They don't want an opening act. They don't even want an opening band.
Right.
You know?
Right. Like I got to open up for some bands in my career, and the ones that were better was the audience was like over like 35, 40, like that. You don't want to open up for anybody that's, you know, and the music was a lot more mellow, and it was great, you know. You don't
like I used to open for Andrew Dice Clay, and his audience is very much a rock sort of crowd. And they would boo you until you did a dirty joke, and then they were like kind of on your side. And I remember a guy was like, some guy heckled you, like, "We came here to see Dice," and I was like, "Do you think I don't have his permission to be up here?"
Oh, that's smart.
Do you think I just stormed the stage? He selected me to do this, you know. And then that kind of calmed everyone down because I think they kind of get that vibe that like this person doesn't have any business being up there. Like,
dude, I would love to open up for like either Metallica or Andrew Dice Clay, and then just most of my set would be just breaking down Little House on the Prairie episodes.
Yeah. What's great about that is that the audience would absolutely hate it, of course.
Yeah.
But you know who would absolutely love it? Dice.
I know.
Dice would think it was the most hysterical thing in the world. He would be backstage dying.
Tell him about season 4, episode 11.
Yeah. He would have the time of his life if that happened.
I know. And then their dads were creeping around watching them, and they're eating berries.
Yeah. He'd be like, "I can't take no more. It's so good.
I can't take no more."
He'd be watching the audience from the curtains, just dying.
Oh my gosh, I know. Mike, you're the best, man. I'm gonna get out there and try to avoid rattlesnakes. I'm gonna go for a little hike. But
for God's sake, be careful out there.
I know.
You know, leave a trail of breadcrumbs, something. You know?
I will, dude. Another great episode, and thank you so much. And guys, do us a favor: go to iTunes, leave a review, leave a comment, spread the word of the Pocket Party, and mainly you could do all that. That helps. You know, but go to YouTube and just say something in the comment section.
Any kind of comments, questions, anything like that. I check any of the episodes that I'm involved in.
Yep.
And try and comment back if people ask questions or anything. My Instagram is @MikeBlackIsBack, all one word.
You got it. I'll be tagging you, and man, let's just keep growing it. And I love what you're doing on stage. And I'll talk to you soon, Mike. Thank you.
You too, brother. Have a good one.
You got it. Bye-bye.
Everybody listen to Darren Carter. We all know he's the party starter. So if you want to listen to a podcast for free, then listen to The Pocket Party.